On July 20th, 1973, Bruce collapsed in Betty Ting Pei's apartment. He was later taken to the hospital, but doctors were unable to revive him.
On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee, the man who seemed untouchable, collapsed in a quiet Hong Kong apartment. He was only 32. The official cause was cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. But rumors rushed in to fill the silence. Assassination, drugs, curses. 50 years have passed.
Bruce Lee is my father, and he's best well known as a martial artist and an action film star, as I'm sure most of you know.
And now his daughter carries something the world has never had before: evidence. And with it, the truth. For Shannon Lee, the story of her father has never been only about his sudden death. She believes everything he did was born out of love.
I don't have those long-form storied memories, but the memory that I do have is the feeling.
And now, at last, love meets truth. The day the dragon fell. Bruce Lee was living at the very edge of his dreams in the summer of 1973. His film Enter the Dragon was about to make him a global star, and scripts for new projects were piling up on his desk. He was a man whose body seemed made of iron and fire, moving with speed and strength that stunned the world. To many, he looked immortal. That day in Hong Kong began like any other. He reviewed scripts, shared plans, and spoke with friends about the future. Later, while visiting actress Betty Ting Pei, he mentioned a sharp headache. She offered him a simple pain tablet. He lay down to rest. Hours passed. When they tried to wake him, he did not move. By nightfall, Bruce Lee was gone. The doctors at Queen Elizabeth Hospital could not save him. The official record pointed to cerebral edema. His brain had swelled without warning, but the questions began almost instantly. How could a man who shaped his body into near perfection fall so suddenly? How could someone so alive be silenced in a single evening? The world could not understand, and in that silence, shadows began to spread. The first collapse, a warning ignored. 2 months before his death, Bruce Lee's body had already sent him a signal. In May 1973, while working at Golden Harvest Studios, he suddenly collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital, barely conscious, suffering from seizures and intense pain. Doctors found swelling in his brain, but they could not explain why it happened. After treatment, he recovered and returned to training as if nothing had happened. To friends and family, the incident seemed like a scare that had passed, but it was not forgotten. Some close to him worried that his relentless pace was pushing him too far. Bruce dismissed those fears, determined to keep working. Looking back, that collapse feels less like an isolated event and more like a warning. His body had already revealed its weakness. The tragedy is that no one, not even the doctors of the time, could see what truly lay beneath. Rumors and shadows. When clear answers failed to appear, rumors stepped in. The suddenness of Bruce Lee's passing felt unreal, and people searched for explanations that matched his larger-than-life image. What emerged was a tangle of stories that spread faster than the truth. Some claimed the triads had ordered his death, punishing him for refusing their control. The idea of an assassination sounded dramatic, almost like one of his films, and for years it refused to fade. Others insisted the cause was drugs. Small traces of cannabis were found in his system, enough for whispers that an allergy had struck him down. Experts disagreed, but the rumor stuck anyway. Medical theories filled the gaps. Perhaps it was epilepsy, some said. Others pointed to an aneurysm, a hidden defect that had gone unnoticed. And still others leaned toward the heat, dehydration, and exhaustion that came with his training. Then came the stories of curses. People saw connections between his death and the later tragedy of his son, Brandon, who also died young and suddenly. To some, the pattern was too sharp to ignore. Whether mafia plots, medical puzzles, or mystical fate, each rumor left his family carrying the weight of shadows they never asked for. Shannon Lee's quiet search. For Shannon Lee, the rumors were always more than stories. They were walls that surrounded her father's memory. She grew up hearing them whispered, printed, and repeated, each one claiming to know what happened. But she was only 4 years old when Bruce Lee died.
Bruce Lee is my father, and he's best well known as a martial artist and an action film star, as I'm sure most of you know. He died when I was 4 years old.
She had no answers of her own, only questions that grew with her. As she became older, she learned to protect her father's image. She worked to keep the focus on his art, his philosophy, and the love he carried in his heart. Through the Bruce Lee Foundation, she celebrated his vision rather than his death. Yet the mystery never truly left her. Quietly, in private, she searched. She spoke to doctors, studied old reports, and asked those who had been there to tell her what they remembered. For decades, she resisted speaking publicly. But when her daughter began asking about the grandfather she never met, silence no longer felt like enough. The leap into science. By 2023, technology had advanced far beyond what doctors could have imagined in 1973. Genetic testing now holds the power to uncover hidden vulnerabilities that no autopsy could have revealed at the time. For Shannon, this was the path forward. It was not about feeding speculation, but about finding something solid. The Bruce Lee estate had preserved fragments of her father's life, items that carried traces of him still, a lock of hair sealed in resin, old dental impressions, a mouth guard worn during sparring. With the help of experts, these artifacts became the key. Using delicate methods, specialists extracted usable DNA without damaging the originals. To strengthen the study, Shannon also gave her DNA, along with her daughter's. 3 generations linked together, allowing researchers to see patterns with greater clarity. 2 independent labs, one in California and one in Singapore, carried out the sequencing, unaware of where the samples came from. It was a careful process, built to leave no doubt. What they found would finally bring light to a mystery that had lived too long in the shadows. The findings revealed. When the results arrived, Shannon read them slowly, then again, as if the words might change. What they revealed was not a crime, not a curse, but something written in her father's biology. The tests showed a rare variant in the AQP4 gene. This gene helps control how water moves in and out of brain cells. In Bruce Lee's case, the variant made him more vulnerable to dangerous imbalances. Under the right conditions, it could lead to swelling in the brain, the same condition listed on his death certificate. For decades, experts had wondered if dehydration, overtraining, or even heat stroke played a role in his passing. The DNA confirmed that his body already carried a hidden risk, and that the medicine he took before lying down may have pushed it further. The sequencing also answered another long-standing question. Bruce Lee's ancestry, often debated, was found to include European roots alongside Chinese heritage. It did not change who he was, but it explained the stories that had circled for years. These findings did not make him less. They made him real. His death was not the result of myth, but of a fragile truth inside his cells. Medical fact versus myth. The discovery changed the way people spoke about Bruce Lee. For 50 years, his death had been described in shadows, murder plots, secret poisons, supernatural curses. Now, science has replaced those whispers with something clear and grounded. Doctors who reviewed the findings explained how the pieces fit. Bruce's extremely low body fat, his constant training, his strict diet, and the heat of Hong Kong all placed extra strain on his body. For most people, these challenges might pass unnoticed. But for someone with his genetic weakness, they could be deadly. Add a common pain tablet, and the balance tipped too far. This did not reduce his greatness. If anything, it revealed the courage of a man who achieved astonishing things while carrying an unseen risk. His famous words, "Be water, my friend," now felt heavier, almost prophetic. He spent his life teaching fluidity, yet water itself became his greatest danger. The myths had painted him as larger than life. The science showed him as human. And in that humanity, his story gained a different kind of power, one that could finally stand without the weight of rumor. Shannon speaks at last. For years, Shannon Lee avoided speaking about the details of her father's death. She chose to focus on his life, his art, and his words. Talking about the mystery only seemed to give strength to rumors she knew were untrue. But once the DNA results were in her hands, she felt the silence could not last. She told close friends that this was not about solving a puzzle for the tabloids. It was about truth. She wanted the world to know that Bruce Lee did not fall because of crime, drugs, or curses. He fell because he was human. Her father's strength had inspired millions, but even he had vulnerabilities. For Shannon, sharing that reality did not weaken his legacy. It gave it depth. At last, she could answer the questions she had lived with since childhood, and she could do it with certainty, not speculation. Legacy and action. With the truth finally uncovered, Shannon Lee began to think about what should come next. For her, it was never only about the past. It was also about how her father's story could protect others. She has spoken about plans to support research into the hidden risks athletes face, especially those who push their bodies to extremes. Conditions like the one her father carried are still not widely understood, yet they can be deadly. Through the Bruce Lee Foundation, she hopes to build partnerships with doctors and universities, opening new studies on hydration, genetics, and performance. This effort could help athletes, fighters, and even dancers avoid tragedies that science is now able to prevent. She has also considered writing more about her family's journey, not only to honor her father, but to share how truth can heal myths. In this way, his story continues, not as an ending, but as a light that others may follow. Bruce Lee's death will always feel sudden, a flame cut short before its time. But now, with truth uncovered, the shadows around that night have begun to fade. What remains is not a tale of assassins or curses, but of a man whose body carried both greatness and fragility. For Shannon Lee, love has always been at the center of her father's story. By facing the truth, she has given him something greater than legend. She has given him humanity. The dragon did not fall because he was less than we imagined. He lost because he was real.